You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Becca's there on the backhand, scoring the save, rebound in the crease, they score!
Hosted by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney. And this episode number 29 of Season 2 of the SRG Podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in downtown Springfield and in Amherst, by our friends at Brewcade in Agawam, and by our friends at Landscaping That Fits. Call them anytime for all your landscaping needs. Alongside Matt Baker, I am Steve Forney. Matt, how are you, my friend?
Doing well. It's vacation week here in Western Mass schools, most Western Mass schools. So, trying to get some work done, getting caught up on everything.
Yeah.
Doing well. How about you guys?
Usually we're cranky because we're teachers and we're tired and it's a long night, and when we couldn't be better because it's a Tuesday morning and we got nothing else going on while y'all are working. We are not. So
and I sat on the couch, watched a little Sports Center, drank some coffee. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
I know. I had a nice big breakfast. I'm feeling great. So, so we are I think today's focus is going to be on looking forward to the playoffs and the SRG Awards.
Yeah.
I did just want to open up a little bit with, I don't know how much time we're going to spend on the Charlotte games over the weekend, because I think both teams are just playing out the string and it wasn't really very competitive, fun hockey. I think the game, the season finale was one of the more boring hockey games I've watched, and I don't think either team was really engaged in anything.
Yeah.
I did, this being a Tuesday, I did watch the Blues game last night, and I have a couple of different angles. For one, the Blues went with 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. This is a very, very physical series.
Yep.
They decided to dress Tyler Tucker, I think, because the game was more physical, and I watched at least 3 pucks that were easy to corral, go over Tucker's stick, out of the zone, back into the neutral zone when the team was setting up shop. And that's like not his game. Like, I was surprised it was him and not Matt Kessel, because Kessel would be more, I think Kessel's not as physical, but he can be, but he also still has that ability to keep the puck in the zone. That kind of would have been my play.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, for Bruins fans, I think I'm a big Jim Montgomery guy, and I didn't want to see him get fired. What I'm seeing from the Blues right now is exactly what I saw from the Bruins when they, shattered the record for most regular season wins, went into the playoffs, and completely laid an egg.
Yeah.
And it looks like the same style, same effort, same everything. And so I'm concerned for the Blues and for Blues fans now down 2-0 against Winnipeg.
I'll say this, a little pushback. I think, and I haven't followed the Blues too closely. I think you are right. The reason you're putting Tucker in there as the 7th defenseman is for the physicality. I do think you're right. I think you get a little bit more of a like an offensive threat maybe if Kessel's there. But I think, like, to that point, that was when we spoke to the Blues Fan Forum podcast, Jacob. He kind of was like, oh, great, they extended Tyler Tucker to be the 7th defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's questionable, but it's who they have. As far as the playoff goes, though, I think comparing it to the Bruins were the 1 seed, the heavy favorites. The Florida Panthers were the 8 seed, and you kind of laid the egg, in Game 7, but you lost to them as the number 1 seed. Here, you're the Blues as the 8th seed going up against the number 1 team in the whole NHL all season. I mean, this is a Winnipeg team. I believe I heard it last night on the broadcast. They won 15 of their first 16 games this season. So they've just, from pole to pole, have been the most dominant team in the NHL. So I'll give them a little, what I think, as a little bit of a Blues fan now, following our guys when they get to St. Louis. I think there's just a lot. This is all house money, and there's a lot of excitement for the future. The way the Blues rattled off 12 or 13 wins in a row. I think it was 12. Made it to the playoffs. Young guys stepping up. Snuggerud gets a power play goal last night. Didn't do much other than that. But I think the future is bright, and I think that means the future is strong in Springfield, because I think that's what you sort of need. If you look at the Hershey Bears and the Capitals, kind of, again, I watching that game a little bit last night too. I think that they said that this is the 10th time in 11 seasons the Capitals have made the playoffs. And that translates to success in the AHL, because you're grooming these guys. You have you're able to have continuity and consistency year after year with rosters. As we're going into, we're going to talk about our playoff series and also get into our SRG awards. Part of what I was doing, I'm looking at, rookie of the year candidates, trying not to automatically just give it to one person, but looking at them like, wow, there are Jeremy Biakabatuka is no longer on the team, but there are 9 rookies on this roster right now. All of them, minus one, I would expect to be on this team next year. Great, right? So I think I agree with you. I don't really expect the Blues to make much noise in this playoff, especially going up against the Jets, but the future is really, really bright for St. Louis, which strengthens the future in Springfield. It's a negative to being a fan of the AHL and having your AHL team sort of, rooting for them, is you're at the whim of what the NHL club does. They want to pull a guy up. They want Devo. They pull him up. They want to send him back down. They send him back down. They don't want to give Snuggerud a chance in Springfield. They don't give him a chance in Springfield. They keep him, right? You're reactive to what the NHL club and the NHL GMs do. I don't mean this to sound, you're like the afterthought, right?
That we're definitely not the priority,
as it should be. That's how it should be. So the brighter the future is, I think that just strengthens the optimism, because you worry less about call-ups, guys going up and down and up and down. You worry less about sort of grievances in the locker room. When's my turn? When's not my turn? Why this guy? Why not me? So I think that it's all good, but your overall assessment, I think, is fair. I don't expect the Blues to make much noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a style thing, but you're right. The Bruins had all the expectations on their shoulders. I think, like you said, I think the house money St. Louis is playing with this year, and yeah, they're extremely inexperienced for the playoffs, just based on, like you said, the youth, and when you're looking at Neighbors and Bolduc and Nathan Walker and Torpo, and all these guys played pretty decent minutes last night. Snuggerud. And yeah, they've never really been there before. So I think any playoff experience is good experience, right? Even if you do get your doors blown. And hey, they hung with Winnipeg, and they should have had game one, right? They should have won game one.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see when that comes back to St. Louis, what the series looks like. They get one power play goal, but they gotta get a couple more. They had some pretty good opportunities, and this series is physical as hell, which is fun to watch. It's my favorite kind of hockey. So we'll obviously keep an eye on St. Louis here as the playoffs continue, and of course our playoffs start tonight, as Claude would say. So we're excited for that as well. And then you want to just start doing some SRG awards? I think that's a big focus.
Let's get into it. SRG awards.
So we'll start, I guess, off the top. Our SRG MVP. You want to go first?
Colton Ellis is my guy here. I mean, honorable mentions, you can go up and down the list. You can look at a guy like, Matt Luff. You could look at a guy like, I truly try to look at this as who's the most valuable, It's not who is the best. It's who's the most valuable. Where are you without this guy? So Matt Luff added a extreme value. Look at what the team did when he was joined the roster. Mackenzie McEachern, what he brings to the table. Matthew Pekka, we can't speak enough about the type of season he had. Dylan Peterson, right? What he brings to the table. But at the end of the day, Colton Ellis having a breakout year in what was his first, he was not considered a rookie, but what was his first full-time stint here, first full season in the AHL with the Thunderbirds, 42 games played, 2.63 goals against average, 22 wins, 14 losses, 3 overtime losses, a save percentage north of 9, right? 9.22, 2 shutouts. 3 shutouts. 3 shutouts. I'm looking at the stats now. Where this team would have been without him, 500 at best, right? And they're still kind of around there anyway, but where you are without Ellis making 35 saves every night, that's essentially what he was making, 35 saves every single night. Where you are without him is not in the playoffs. I'll tell you that. Not in the playoffs. So he's my MVP.
I went a little bit of a different route, and
Sure.
I went with Matthew Pekka because I think at the beginning of the season we asked, where are the points going to come from? You don't have Adam Gaudette anymore. Where's the leadership going to come from? This is a young team. Who's going to be the ones to really sort of own the team? And I think that this is Matthew Pekka's team. I think that he owns this team, and a career high 31 goals, career high 32 assists, career high 63 points. He's 199 in the Thunderbirds uniform, right around 1,000 coming up. I mean, yeah, where are you without Matthew Pekka? I mean, who's your captain? Who's your leader? Where are you getting leadership from? You have all these injuries. Who's the glue that holds everything together? To me, it's Pekka. And I thought that when you needed big goals, when you needed power play goals, when the team was struggling and you needed points, when Hugh McGinn couldn't score for the life of him for 2 months, where's Nikita Alexandrov's production without Pekka on the same line? So to me, it was the captain, leadership, scoring, physicality. I really thought that he brought everything he had this year, a career year for him. So for me, the MVP is Peck's captain.
Can't go wrong, right? Can't go wrong. I think I do. I think both guys are extremely, you talk about the cornerstone, the foundation of building any team. You need solid goaltending and you need solid leadership. You need skill. And I think between both of those guys, it checks all those boxes. Obviously, solid goaltending with Pekka. We've said this from very early on in the season. He's playing with some extra juice this year, right? He was amped up about this year, and he really has. 78 games played for Matthew Pekka. The only one to play more was Hunter Skinner, 71 games, 31 goals, 32 assists, plus minus of 1 for Matthew Pekka, but he's on the ice all the time. Starter, in the starting lineup, the majority of the games, on every power play unit, on every power kill, or, penalty kill. So, he was called on to do everything. And as I alluded to earlier, with 9 rookies on your lineup and a lot of them playing big minutes, right? I think of all of the Simon Robertson, only 26 games played, but really 6 of them, Buchinger, Robertson, Dickinson, Peterson, Kaskamaki, Dvorsky, all playing over 25 games. That's a lot of minutes. That's a lot of games played by rookies. And you look at your leadership to bring those guys along, and with their development, the rookies, can't complain. So I think both men are deserving of the MVP award. And I think it's fair to have co-MVPs this year, because I don't know how you would make a difference, or, how you would distinguish one or the other.
Yeah, 6th in the league in goals, 6th in the league in points. It's pretty good for Matthew Pekka. So cheers to both guys, for real. Cheers to both of them. Now the 413 award, is that the community based, or is that the one that the fans rants voted on?
Well, both, right? It's the 413 Community Award. So who's out there in the community? Fans voted also for the MVP, and I probably should have said this too, based off our fan rants. Everyone was either Ellis or Pekka. So it's fair to say we got co-MVPs this year for the SRG Awards. For the 413 Community Award, fans, you mentioned Callan. I have Drew Callan. I don't know where you're going, Steve. Where you going?
No, it's Drew.
Callan.
And that goes all the way back to the summer, showing up at stuff and at Amelia Park and coming on our podcast. And again, I don't even know where half the team was, but Drew Callan was here in Springfield and Westfield in the community really since the summer. So guy's been a rock star.
And Drew does all of the work with the Springfield libraries, the Boomer book club. That's Drew Callan. And, for a guy, he's not native here to the Northeast even, right? I think he's from Wisconsin. So talk about a guy who over the course of the season, after a few acquisitions made by this team, kind of Drew Callan gets kind of pushed up to be an observer for a big stretch there in the middle of the season. And then with injuries, he's called upon again to be your fourth line center, to play those gritty minutes. And he does that all while still being, he might not have had as much ice time as he wanted, but out in the community, he was still out there just as much as he always had been. A real staple, I think a guy who embodies sort of that 413 grit that, how much have we talked about the reason our love for the Springfield Thunderbirds grows is because you see what the Thunderbirds do for the community, do for the schools in the area. And Drew Callan is always front and center with all those appearances. So absolutely.
No doubt about it. And there are some other guys too. Hunter Skinner's always sort of out in the community. It seems like Taryn Pfizer, whenever he's up, is, part of the Mayflower Marathon and everything else. And I love Taryn Pfizer. Goals, assists, and vaccines. He's doing it all at Pfizer. I think that's pretty much guaranteed a Drew Callan 413 award. Looking at the goalie of the year, I think it's pretty obvious. I will say about Z, though, I'm impressed with his ability to, we talked about his rough stretches and having it not compound. And it does seem like Z is very capable of not only just playing good goalie, which he did for 90% of the year, but rebounding and the importance of, you have a bad Friday, you don't have a week to get over it. You're back at it Saturday, you're back at it Sunday. The mental toughness of a guy like Zarenko to be able to compartmentalize, put one game aside, put one goal aside, right? How many times do we see him kind of give up a shaky goal and then be absolute stones the rest of the game, right? So I think the obvious is Colton Ellis, but I don't want to overlook the impact and the value that a guy like Zarenko has. Absolutely.
Very well said. And I agree with you. I mean, I think the obvious one is Colton Ellis, but Z having, I think, we don't underestimate the importance of having, and I've said this all year long, we kind of asked the Iowa Wild if they would take Vadim Zarenko as their unquestioned number one. Yes, they would, right? There are plenty of teams that would do that. And when you have the confidence in your quote unquote number two goalie, maybe just by default, I don't mean that as a slight, but when you have that ability to play a big body, a quick body, like a Vadim Zarenko as your two, that allows for a Colton Ellis to be solid all year long. Let's look at Colton Ellis' stats. I kind of mentioned a few of them. 42 games played, which ranks 7th in the AHL. His wins at 22 ties him for 7th in the AHL. His save percentage at .922 ranks 4th in the AHL. His saves, actually, I didn't even think to look this one up. I bet you he's even, why can't geez. Saves. He's got 1,253 saves. At quick glance, that is number one in the whole AHL. I don't know why my
1359.
Yeah,
for saves.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
1359.
Well, that's shots against.
Oh, shots against. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's why it's not letting me, for some reason, it's not letting me filter by
saves. Yeah, I can't
by saves, but shots against 1359 was the number one a goaltender there in the AHL by 17 shots higher than the next guy from Tucson there. Saves made, and number one goalie in the whole AHL with 1,253. So, not only was he just the best goaltender on this team, he was arguably one of the better goaltenders in the entire AHL. I go back to what I said earlier, where if he was sort of seen as the number one goalie for Springfield earlier in the season, I think he should have been an all-star. I think, at the end of the season, you look at who your all-star snubs were. He's top of my list as far as someone who deserved to be an all-star. He got his extension with the St. Louis Blues, expecting much of the same for him next year. Maybe that's in the cards for him, but it's tough to make it as a goaltender. You can only take so many guys, but he definitely is up there as tenders who are capable and deserving. He was deserving of that.
And I'm glad you brought up the saves. Let's see if I can do this without giving people a popsicle headache, because he was first in the league in saves. He played in 42 games. The guy behind him played in 43. So the guy behind him played in one more game, but he has 39 more saves than the guy in second, which is practically a game, right?
In Springfield it is.
In Springfield it is, right? So he played one less game and had an entire game's worth more saves than the guy in second place, which is pretty remarkable. So, Colton Ellis, definitely goalie of the year. Also, tip of the hat to our guy Vadim Zarenko, who was just excellent as well. And again, we talk about the MVP. It's like, where would you be without player X? Both of these goalies, where would you be without them? You wouldn't be playing hockey tonight. That's for sure. Tip of the hat to him. Now, this one I think is kind of interesting, and I was interested with the way that the sort of team voted when we did the player awards over the weekend. Best defenseman. Mm-hmm. I think when we were talking about MVP, we went forward goalie. I think when we were talking about some of the issues we've had with the team, it usually starts on the back end. I'm curious your thoughts on the Matt Baker best defenseman on the team this year.
So I kind of narrowed mine down. I had three guys I was kind of looking at. I was able to narrow it down to two. My top two were Schoenemann and Skinner. Schoenemann, sort of things sticking out, 20 points and a +8. For Skinner, 23 points and a +2. I broke down, I looked at how many games played. You had Hunter Skinner, 71 games. He led the team. And Corey Schoenemann, 63 games played. So again, the majority of the games being played by Corey Schoenemann. Corey Schoenemann got extended by the Blues this year. For he'll be a two-way contract, but he'll be down here in Springfield. For me, though, I'm going to give this award as best defenseman to Hunter Skinner. And the reason for me, you looked at the points, they were about the same. They're both in the plus minus. They're both on the plus side. The physicality and the willingness and ability to sort of fight for Hunter Skinner kind of did it for me. He's a fan favorite, great personality. I think he's good in the locker room. I think he's great in the locker room. But his ability to, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that Schoenemann isn't a fighter. Like, that's not everybody. But for me, having that, when Tucker gets called up, Bitten's got his bubble on. Kessie's in and out of a line. He's new to the team, right? When you needed that moment to stick up for somebody, to interject a little bit of enthusiasm or excitement into the game to get the crowd going, it was a guy like Skinner. So for me, best defenseman, Hunter Skinner.
Same. And sort of for a lot of the things that you're talking about there, and even off of the stat sheet there, I think he's the best on the team at keeping pucks in the offensive zone. When they have the puck and they're looking to clear it out, Skinner has an insane ability to keep pucks alive, keep plays alive, keep offensive zone pressure alive by tracking pucks, keeping them in the zone. So many of his goals or assists were from the blue line, and every fan's yelling, shoot. He either can flip one towards the net that can be tipped, redirected, or find a home, or this ability, I just picturing this goal where he just flung one to the far post where Pekka was crashing in from the corner, grabs it, wraps it around, and scores.
Yep.
Those are the plays that both ends of the ice, offensive zone, defensive zone. You mentioned the fighting. I think that Hunter Skinner is one of the more solid defensemen, not only on this team, but really in the division. In terms of guys that you're like, I want him on my team. And we're going to talk about, we got the best fight coming up in our SRG Awards as well. You nailed it. I mean, there was a while there where they were really missing guys that had physical edges to their game, and Hunter Skinner never stopped being that force, being that guy, willing to stick up, willing to mash guys on the boards. Hunter Skinner, for me, hands down, best defensive player of the year. So there you go.
Yep.
We didn't even share these beforehand.
We didn't. And let's not forget too, for a week and a half, Connor Walchuk had him playing some fourth line forward when the team needed it. Right. So what does a team need? I got you. You know, Ryan shares with us. I didn't know this heading into it, but Ryan shares how when he came into the league through Hartford, he was a forward. Go figure. And now he's an SRG Award winner for best defenseman. Go figure.
Absolutely. So there you go. You don't get an award or anything, Skinner. You just get
some airtime with us.
Yeah, you get a little bit of airtime. So that's about it. Moving along, we have our SRG Unsung Hero Award. Again, I was a little surprised with the one that the team went with. But what was your choice for Unsung Hero? I have a feeling you would be in lockstep with them.
I think so. I narrowed it down to two, and I like to mention two because it give these guys the credit due, right? For me, I narrowed it down to Hugh McGing and Mackenzie McEachern. You kind of crunch some numbers here. Hugh McGing, 34 points on the season, a +1, 68 games played. He was at basically half a point per game and 0.88 penalty minutes a game. I kind of looked into that, just knowing how important these guys are. How available are they, right? If they're unsung, right? How available are they? So that's kind of why I looked into that. So less than a penalty minute a game. For Mackenzie McEachern, 32 points on the season. He was a +14, led the team this year in that category. That kind of like, whoa, for the amount of minutes he plays, how much he's on the ice. And I say only scoring 32 points. And I don't mean that as a slight. That's a great season, 12 goals, 20 assists. He's creating offense. But, he's not breaking the doors down. Nikita Alexandrov had almost 50 points. But to be a +14 leading the team there, that was big. He had 0.8 points per game. Oh, he only played in 40 games this season. He had that stretch in the middle of the season when he was injured. So 40 games played this season. And he was 1.35 penalty minutes per game. So just over a minute penalty a game. Those are my two guys in the running. My unsung hero this year is Hugh McGing. Just what he was able to do. He seemed to be the guy, along with Mac. When Otto Stenberg is new, like his first few games, who's he paired with? Hugh McGing, Mackenzie McEachern. All these rookies coming up. Who are they played with? Who are they paired with on lines? Hugh McGing. And so what he was able to do to elevate other players, that was profound, right? That was in your face. You could see that. So that, and the fact as a leader on this team, as Hugh McGing, when you're going through that huge scoring drought, right? A goals drought, to be a leader and continue to grind, to continue to play 200 feet, to continue to show these young guys how to be professional when things aren't going your way. I think there's no stat for that, but it was noticed. As you and I, we see every game. And there was never a game that I reflected on it. Did Hugh McGing play that game? Right. He made his presence felt every single time he was out on the ice. So he is my unsung hero.
Same Z's.
There it is. Yep.
And really, for a lot of what it was that you said, that the goal drought, he was, when he hadn't scored in forever, he was so physical. He moved the puck. He shared the puck. There were games that I thought that the team looked disinterested. They were lollygagging through, a 3-3, and Sunday rolls around, and everybody's at 85% effort except Hugh McGing, who I thought that never stopped, never let whatever the moment or the opponent, or never let it bother him. Just kept going out there and grinding and doing his thing. You mentioned the leadership. You mentioned catering to the young guys and bringing them along 1,000%. I think that if Pekka wasn't here, Hugh McGing would probably be my choice for captain.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he played in 68 games. So of the best abilities, availability. The kid was always out there killing penalties on the power play, first line center, fourth line center, didn't matter to him wherever he was. He was giving it his all, and 1,000%, I give my unsung hero award to Hugh McGing for a lot of the reasons that you just mentioned as well. So, again, unanimous, in sync.
That's it.
You're Justin Timberlake. I'm JC, or one of the other guys there. All right, now this one I had a little bit too much recency bias on, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are for the fight of the year.
All right. Once again, I'll go quickly with this. Here are my top two: Hunter Skinner versus the Wild after the Matt Luff hit. I thought it was, picking your spots. It was a hit. It was reactive to clearly, a big hit against Luff and a serious injury. And Luff being one of the leaders on this team, his importance. Hunter Skinner stepping up to protect him was huge. And it was clear as day. Anyone who was in the arena, you felt the momentum shift. And 30 seconds later, a minute later, T-Bird score. They score another one. The game was kind of over after that. My other one in the running was Buchinger's fight against
Rutger
McGroarty, for very similar reasons. That was after he felt Ellis was kind of run into, protecting his goalie, and 3 quick jabs to the back of McGroarty's head put him down. And so those were my kind of two for picking your spot and having it impact the team. My winning fight would go to Buchinger, believe it or not. I was kind of surprised. I did not go into thinking about this category thinking that Buchinger would win it. But again, how he won it, pretty clean. He did injure himself and missed a few games after that. But those shots to the back of the head were that was clean fight. And again, I think for the right reasons, reacting, protecting your goalie, protecting our MVP, protecting one of the reasons why you're in the playoffs for Buchinger as a defenseman and as a rookie. I thought it sort of set the tone. So my best fight goes to Buchinger.
I think it's a good choice. The only reason I didn't have it on my list was because he did get hurt, so that kind of makes it unfortunate. And I had the Skinner against Carson Lambos after Luff got hit, and as you mentioned, the goals scored right after that was all from the momentum built by Hunter Skinner. The only other one that I wanted to mention, and I know recency bias, was Sam Bitten this weekend against Charlotte against Colton Heward, Cam Heward, whatever this guy's name is. For the opposite reason, I think people might think Heward not only stood on his feet the entire fight. That was the first fight Sam had post bubble on his head.
Yep.
Heward had just gotten called up from the University of New Hampshire, where he had never fought. He'd never fought in juniors. Guy had never fought in his life. And at one point, he had Cale Kessie and Sam Bitten both grabbing him and throwing punches at him, and the kid still stayed on his feet. So Carter, Colton, Cam, whatever, Heward, stick taps to you, because you stayed out there and you took all the pummeling from two guys, Kessie and Sam. But no, my number one is definitely the Skinner one after Matt Luff. I thought I think that's why we had him. Part of the reason we had him as the best D was just because of the moment, right? What is the read the room, and that was a big read the room fight, and it led to a couple goals. And even though Luff's not back yet, it's still that to me was a big momentum shift in that game. And I think that was a big moment for the team, right? I mean, they were struggling, and you're playing Iowa, a team that you needed to beat, and they did. And a lot of the momentum, a lot of those goals came because of Skinner's reaction to the Luff hit. So I do love that as well.
Yep.
Lastly, I went Captain Obvious on this one. The Rookie of the Year, it's got to be Devo, and for me, and it's tough because there were so many rookies. We had a lot to choose from, and I thought a guy like Samuel Johannesson went very sort of flew under the radar with 32 points in 66 games out the gate, playing top line defensive minutes, 20 minutes a night, 24 minutes a night. He would have sort of been my second option, would have been Johannesson, but I think it's hard to go anybody other than Dvorsky.
Yeah, according to and I was surprised by this, and I guess, but AHL website and when you're breaking down statistics and looking at rosters, they have Tanner Dickinson listed as a rookie here. I mean, maybe he just didn't play enough games last year to qualify. I don't know, but if you do look at who they have as rookies: Dalibor Dvorsky, Kaskamaki, Dylan Peterson, Simon Robertson, Buchinger. These are guys, Johannesson, playing big minutes, and I think the obvious one, and he's who I would have, Dalibor Dvorsky, from game 1 against Laval, right? And I remember something that you pointed out. It's like, all right, you're up 1 goal, there's an empty net, and who's on the ice? Dalibor Dvorsky, playing with Pekka and Nikki, and he gets the empty net goal. But to have that confidence. So what Dvorsky was asked to do this year as a rookie, as a 19-year-old, was, hey man, don't be a rookie. Don't be 19. He was on power play 1 unit. He was pretty much the number 2 center all season long.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up with 45 points. He was a -10. But again, like as a rookie, that I'm not bothered by that at all. He's smart. You see him make the right pass, make the right slash. He would play against the boards. He would get in there. He would back check. So he's clearly the Blues' number 1 prospect right now. I think still, even with Snuggerud kind of staying up there playing in the playoffs, I do still think, as far as where the ceiling can be, I think you are looking at a guy like Dalibor Dvorsky as sort of the next face of your franchise. And for this year, he's our Rookie of the Year.
No doubt. And I think the growth has been huge too. I remember at the beginning of the season, physicality, he really wasn't interested in. I think learning how to play a 200-foot game was something that he did gradually over time. I thought he's better at it now than he was in October. So growing, right, and developing. That's what the AHL is here for, is development. It's up to the coaches. It's up to the staff. It's up to all that. It's also up to the player, right? The player has to be willing to accept coaching and accept growth. And I think that Dvorsky really accepted that as a young player this season. I think that without that acceptance, you're not going to, we've seen guys with all the talent in the world that just refuse to be willing to grow. And then they end up playing in Sweden, right? Because they can't hack it. So to me, that was the biggest thing for Dvorsky for me, was the growth and the willingness to become better. And and I thought that he did it, and I think he's just a tremendous player now compared to what he was in October, which was still a great player, but the growth to me was the acceptance of growth was everything. So rookie of the year goes to Dalibor Dvorsky, and that wraps up our unsponsored SRG awards. We gotta work on that. We got to get some sponsors in here to help us out with the SRG awards, but always fun to do. I'm not going to have the good graphics like I had last year because my student did that, and we're on vacation, and I'm not bothering it. I'm not even talking to students. I don't even want to see them in the grocery store, to be honest with you. But we are going to preview some of the games coming up. The Providence series, which gets underway tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do, I want to mention the SRG podcast is proudly sponsored by our friends at White Lion Brewing, their new location in Amherst on North Pleasant Street and right in downtown Springfield at Tower Square for your playoff game on Friday. Don't avoid it. Head right to Tower Square, and it's the same walk as MGM. It's just more well lit and safer. And it's the same distance. So feel free to park at Tower Square, go down to White Lion Brewing, get yourself some of their Seuss mac and cheese, Boomer nachos, and some of the delicious beers that they have on tap as well. And then they'll validate your parking for you, so you don't have to pay a dime. That new garage looks super nice, but I think it's expensive. It's like $11 on game night or something like that.
I think it's more than that, actually.
Is it really? So I'm out on that. Just go to White Lion, get the parking validated, and you'll be all set. White Lion Brewing, a proud sponsor of the SRG podcast. Make sure you tell them that the boys from SRG sent you. By our friends at Landscaping That Fits, 413-847-0338. I had to go to Home Depot yesterday for something unrelated, and there's a big sign that said, "We are out of Scott's turf builder fertilizer," whatever it is. So if Home Depot can't carry the fertilizer, what are you supposed to do? I'll tell you what to do. Go call.
I know what you could do. Yeah,
I know exactly what you could do. Call Landscaping That Fits. Rob's not out of fertilizer, so he'll be happy to take care of that for you, as well as your spring cleanup, your weekly lawn mowing needs, really anything that involves the outer space in the yard. Rob is happy to help. I'm a little disappointed. He says that he's got plenty of business. Nobody ever says, "Hey, I heard about you on the SRG podcast." What the heck, guys? Get on it, right? Like, let's go. Let's do this thing. Let's make Rob happy. He's busy, but he'd love some more work, and we want people to make it worth it from our end, right? Go say, "Hey, Rob, I've heard about you on SRG. Like, let's go. Let's hook this up." So do what I did and contact the friends at Landscaping That Fits and Rob at 413-847-0338, and by our friends at Brewcade in Agawam. There's going to be times this summer maybe where you got the kids and it's raining, it stinks, and you don't know what to do with your kids, or maybe it's April break and you don't know what to do with your kids. It's a cloudy, gloomy day. Head on over to Brewcade, really any time of the day, and just kind of let them be kids. Go hit the arcade while you can hang out at the bar and have a couple drinks, or maybe you want to dominate your kid in darts or pool or air hockey or whatever it is. You can do that as well too. I love the competitive spirit between me and my kids. So definitely go check out our friends at Brewcade in Agawam. Birthday parties, leagues, arcade, beer, sort of everything that you're looking for. You just want nostalgia. You just want to feel like a kid again. Who doesn't? Hit up our friends at Brewcade in Agawam. Tell Mike and everybody over there, the guys from SRG sent you.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got 3 here coming up against Providence. Not exactly feeling confident heading into this, Matt. I'm not exactly sure how you're feeling, but I think one of the big things I talked about last week or the week before was that all these non-NHL playoff teams are just going to be loaded up.
Yeah.
Loading up their AHL roster, and that's what it looks exactly like Providence did, and I think that's bad news for us.
I think, well, I agree with you, right? I'm looking at Providence roster right now, and they're loaded. Merklov, Lettieri, Pitlick, Brown, Tufte, Poitras, Farinacci, Veal, Lizell. Everyone's back. They're all here. They're all playing. You know, the only one, and this came up in the fan rants this week, the only one who could be eligible to be sent down for the Thunderbirds is Bolduc. And ironically enough, he's not even a guy who played with us at all this year. So I don't, he was down during the Four Nations, but, somewhat invisible, not really playing a major role for those few games he was down here. Clearly, he's talented. He's doing well in the NHL. So I don't think we're missing much by the Blues being in the playoffs, because Bolduc is the only one who would be eligible. Even if the Blues didn't make the playoffs, Kessel would not be eligible. Neither would Tyler Tucker. So Bolduc is the only one eligible who we'd be waiting for to be sent down. Who we're really waiting for are the guys on the injury list to get healthy. That's where we are depleted. We're not depleted by guys up in the NHL. We're depleted by injuries. So I have no new information to report. Luff or Mac, if they're, it was good to see Zach Dean this weekend play, get a goal. That's a good sign. But, I think still Luff, Mac, and Peterson, if they're in there, I feel much better. I have no information to report on whether or not they will play or not. My other sort of thoughts on this, initially, I was okay with this matchup. I like this matchup. I'm excited for this matchup. I'm curious to see the last time this team played. Springfield won. Was that in overtime? Or was that right in? Oh no, that was the 2 goals
game.
That was right, Nikki. That was 2 goals in the last minute and a half of the game, 30 seconds of the game. So tempers were hot at that little mini scrum, resulting in sort of McEachern hurting his shoulder again. So I'm excited for this matchup, and I think the Thunderbirds play the Bruins well. I think they play the Bruins well in Providence. I think Zarenko plays the Bruins well. I will bring this up, and I'm curious. I want your perspective on this, being at ice level. I'm reading a lot, and I didn't catch this. I'm reading a lot about Zarenko's maybe demeanor after the game Saturday night, where he just seemed frustrated, a bit defeated. I didn't catch this, so I'm stealing words from the fan rants. Again, facing 100 shots, right? And he didn't, I don't think he played bad, but knowing Zarenko seems to be in his head sometimes, I'm questioning whether or not I would start him game 1. I know last week or whatever it was, we kind of said, hey, you play Zarenko game 1 and Ellis 2 and 3. With the way this is going to go, game 1 is tonight, Wednesday night. Game 2 is going to be in Springfield Friday. And I'm not exactly sure on game 3, if needed. You might go Ellis. If it's true, as it's kind of been sort of mentioned, that if Z seems to be a little frustrated, I don't know if you play him game 1.
I think it was more like a you got to be kidding me kind of thing. And the last goal, the last goal that went in with like 13 seconds left. It was a fluky goal. Both teams knew that the Thunderbirds weren't going to score. They didn't bring their skating legs. They didn't really have the group in front of him was not ready to play. Mm-hmm. And I think it was more of a, like, you got to be kidding me. I think fans are starting to feel bad for him because of what's happening in front of them.
Yeah.
Where, what do you know? I mean, it went from 10 to 10 in shots to 25 to 10 in shots like that. Right. And then it went from 25 shots against to 40 like that. So I think fans feel bad for these goalies and what they have to go through because of the lack of good defensive play in front of them. Mm-hmm. I didn't get the impression that Z is crumbling or frustrating or anything like that. And I'm still willing to go. I still like the idea. Zarenko game 1 in Providence, and then Ellis 2 and 3.
Yep.
That could all change. What's the hook going to be for Zarenko if he gives up 2 or 3 quick ones? Sometimes you have to make that change if your team isn't ready to go. And now you're like, well, the only thing I can do as a coach is pull the goalie and switch. So you start with Z in there, and if the team's not ready to play and you give up 2 goals and he's got an early hook, then now Ellis is in, right? So I still think that's sort of the way to do it is Zarenko, Ellis, games 1, 2, and 3 if I was going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally comfortable with that. I mean, Zarenko has, it's hard to say dominated because it didn't always turn out. And, I think it was a 2-1 loss. He might have even had a 1-0 loss in there too against Providence this year. But he has really played Providence really well and has been really well in Providence. I think 2 of his games were sort of in Providence off. They appeared to end his sort of funk. He seems to get right, so to speak, in Providence. So I would be fine with playing him game 1. I didn't catch it. Reading what other people saw would just put a little bit, but I trust that Konowalchuk's he understands that better than you and I. He's got a thumb on the pulse there, and we've talked about it. I am confident if you put Z in there, you need to have guys play in front of him, but he will make the saves needed. But that's it. I mean, a goaltender. And this has been, I don't expect it to change because it's been this way all year. It's been this way for 2 years. The shots against. Goaltender really can't do anything about that. They see a shot, they have to make the save. They have to stop it. They can't do anything to prevent those shots from coming. There's rebound control in there, but I don't really think that's neither goalies. That's not their thorn, is puck control and giving up rebounds. Yes, they do give up rebounds, but it's not a problematic amount of rebounds. It's just shots on shots on shots. And at some point, it's got to be the 5 in front of him that say, let's give this guy a break. I wish, to our listeners, and I wish I could pinpoint or draw up the diagram to solve it. I don't have that answer, but I don't expect it to change either in the playoffs. I know playoffs are different in every sport. Basketball and hockey, especially when you now have legit series, best of 3 is quick. You don't really have much time. You just got to kind of play your game and hope you're better 2 out of the 3 nights. But once you get into those longer series and there are more, those player personnel decisions and matchups become more important. But I don't expect this team to change much. They give up a lot of shots. They pick their shots and when they've been at their best is not when the Thunderbirds are peppering the opposing goalie. It's just when they're making the best out of the few shots that they take. Right. So I hope that kind of warms up. I hope Nicky gets hot.
I hope he shows up ready to go. I hope Nikita Alexandrov shows up giving 110% effort, because down the stretch, I didn't see 110% effort from that player, and they're going to need it.
Yeah.
My biggest, but what I need from the Thunderbirds is I need them to be physical and not stupid.
Yeah.
And I think this team's going to come out with a frustration and anger because of what Matthew Patra did to Mackenzie McEachern at the end of that Alexandrov game. That injury was entirely uncalled for. Patra was not disciplined or suspended or anything, and definitely should have been. And so the natural reaction is, okay, well, next time we play you, you better keep your head on a swivel, because you're going to be, blah, 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 blah. We better not be dressing Cale Kessie just because we need Matthew Patra to sit, right? And that whole Cale Kessie, Joey Abate thing, right? That back and forth. Don't start the game headhunting particular players because you're mad at them and you don't like them. Providence is too skilled. You're going to be chasing them around and they're just going to be scoring goals. So that's not that's not valuable at all. You chase guys around and headhunt in December, not in April. So be physical, be more physical than them, but understand that they are extremely fast and extremely skilled. And if you're just out there looking to make body contact, they're going to skate right around you and go score goals. So they need to worry about their own end more than anything else. Is, the shot totals are fine. A lot of these goals are coming because defensemen are slow to get back. Forwards aren't back checking. They're leaving the back door wide open. If you do that against Providence, they are going to absolutely crush you. So be smart in your own zone. Don't be headhunting. Find your opportunities. Take advantage of them. And who knows? Both these goalies, DiPietro and Bussy, they've both been good. They've both been bad at times. watch the film, do the homework, find out what it takes, what you guys could do to beat this team. They've had problems with big goalies. Neither one of these guys is 6'8", right? So put a little game plan in there as to what you think works best to beat them and execute it. But if you're out there head hunting, you're going to get burned. If you're leaving the back door open, they're going to score. So take care of your own end, be smart, but be physical, and take advantage of your opportunities and hope for the best, because on paper, it's not even really close at this point right now. So let's hope. Do we want to do fan rants?
I agree with that.
Oh, go ahead.
We pretty much covered them. I mean, the fan rants were the votes for our SRG Awards, and then basically, there was one fan rant from Trini and her dad wanting to know about the call-ups. That can only be Bolduc. He's the only one eligible to be sent down. No other player up in St. Louis is eligible. They're not calling up Dvorsky, so it's Bolduc when the St. Louis Blues season ends, if we are still playing. And in order to do that, we would need to be in the second round. And the Blues need to be eliminated by the Jets in, I think, if I looked correctly, I think after game 5, I think.
Sorry, interesting question here from Trina's dad, and this is really the only one I need to answer. It's about shots on goal, and I had a question on this as well.
Yeah.
We all held our breath when one of our players hit the puck back at our goal by accident, and if it did get by the goalie, it would have counted as a goal. But on the other side, would it somehow be counted as a shot on goal? The answer is yes. So if we shoot it at our own net, the goal credit goes to whoever the opponent's last player was to touch it. That's also considered a shot on goal. The strange thing, and I was talking about this with the off ice guys over the weekend. If you have a play where maybe your goalie's pulled or he's out of position and somebody on the other team fires it at the goal and your defenseman jumps in and makes this ridiculous save and keeps the puck out, that's technically not a shot on goal. Like the defenseman doesn't get credit.
It's a blocked shot.
It's a blocked shot.
Interesting.
So only shots on goal are goals that are A, goals, or B, on the goalie. Defensemen don't get credit for saves, and own goals get shots credited to whatever player touched it last. I mean, there's like whatever, let's call it 15 guys who have 15 goalies who have goals credit, and half of them are because guys shot it into their own net, and the last person to touch it was the goalie, so he gets credit for it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It would be a shot on goal and a goal credited to whoever the last player to touch it was. But yeah, I was surprised that that's considered a block shot, not a save, when your defenseman, again, peels it off the goal line or, jumps in and makes a huge save. It doesn't count. It's just a block shot. So
I feel like if it's in the crease, it should be called a shot. Like if that, I never knew that. That's good insight. One thing I do just want to add about the Bruins matchup, and you hit on, I just want to kind of extend it, is I do think there's a lot of underlying like secondary storylines. You've got the VL breaking Sam's orbital bone. You've got the Abate and Kessie feud. You've got the Poitras injuring McEachern. And I agree with you. I think the answer there, I think for right now, how these rosters are constructed with the Bruins are fully loaded, but they got their guys sent down. The Thunderbirds are injured right now with big players. So how the chance for the Thunderbirds goes up, in my opinion, if you can somehow get these players, you can get in their heads and get them out of their game by keeping their head on a swivel. I don't want to see a fight in game 1. I want to see a big check and let Poitras know all night long. It doesn't have to be a fight. I understand why it might be, but it doesn't have to be.
But he's not going to fight. He's not going to fight anybody.
But like it just needs to be. I go back to, it might have been last year or 2 years ago against Utica hockey, or it was Bitsy's Army night. And I forget who the Utica player was. I think it was their captain, but it was Sam's first start. He hadn't really made a name for himself, but he was this mythological creature in Springfield lore, right? We wanted to see Sam Bitten, and he comes out first start with Will, and Sam, his first shift, drills their captain. clearly it was their best player. And then for the rest of the night, he just wasn't the same. And that, Dean Zarenko, I think, was a 7-0 shutout that night. Like, Springfield rolled. And that check set the tone. I would like to see something like that. Again, it doesn't have to be a fight. I don't care who it comes from, but the first period, every single shift, get a body on Poitras. But to your point, controlled and in the right moment. It can't just be, I'm not going to take myself out of the play just to make the check, but you've got to let these guys know, hey, every time you're in the corner, you're getting bodied. Right. And I think that, if now you have Poitras turning his head a little bit earlier, taking his eyes off the puck a little bit earlier every time, he's skilled, he's talented. I'm not saying it's easy to do this, but I think that is sort of the element that Springfield needs to get into. Is we have to see them be a little bit more physical, but not reckless. And you have to get in these guys' heads. You have to know that you're at least going to. So, hey, you got 120 minutes, for however many minutes you're on the ice for, keep looking over your shoulder because a body's coming. Yep. And I think that, to your point, I think that's how Springfield has to come into this series, and that's going to be their chance to win.
Yeah. Just don't try to fight him. He's not going to fight you. Don't even bother. He's not going to fight you. And he's just going to bait you into penalties. Same with Lizell. Same with Locke Mellis. You're only going to fight VL, Abate, maybe, but don't even bother trying to fight these guys. They're not going to fight you. You got to do it in between the whistles. So, interesting. Hopefully when we're doing this at this time next week, we are still playing hockey. So that's going to be our hope. We want to thank our friends at White Lion Brewing in downtown Springfield and in Amherst, by our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street in Agawam, and by our friends at Landscaping That Fits, 413-847-0338. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, not only just now, but all season long, for sure, and for contributing on our fan rants and saying hi to us in the building, asking us questions. It's been a fun season, and I hope it's not the end, right? Let's hope we can keep this rolling. Let's hope we get more episodes during hockey.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, thank you all for listening all season long. The likes, the subscribes, the follows, the recommendations, the chatter. Hey, check out this podcast. It all matters. It means something to us. We appreciate it. We love it. We enjoy doing this, and we want to keep doing this weekly and bringing you all things Springfield Thunderbirds because we love it. With that said, playoff hockey. Nothing is better than playoff hockey. I love it. Let's make the Thunderdome the Thunderdome. Let's give these boys in game one. In game two, no matter what happens in game one, let's give them that home welcome, and let's make game three happen in Providence. Let's go, Tealers.